So it's by Jeremy Dyson and Andy Nyman, and it debuted in 2010 and became a huge hit on the West End. I never saw it because I am quite nervous, and I didn't like the idea of someone popping up behind me and going boo. So I sort of skipped it, and there was a whole thing around the plays that you're meant to keep the plot a secret, so I actually never had any idea what it's about. But from my understanding, this film is a fairly direct adaptation. It definitely has the same basic plot, which follows Dr. Goodman, a professional parapsychologist, played by Andy Nyman here and also on the original stage version. And he goes to examine 3 unexplained paranormal cases. And each of these 3 characters we meet and the tales of terror that they tell, they're fairly broad tropes. There's an embittered night watchman played by Paul Whitehouse, a nervous teen played by Alex Lawther, a brassy businessman played by Martin Freeman. But I think because all 3 of those actors are so incredible, their performances, they just sell those characters. And I do think this film, maybe a little differently to A Quiet Place, wants to focus more on the intellectual versus the emotional. It really wants to unsettle your mind, and that informs a lot of the horror.
Yeah.
It is a lot more reliant on jump scares, I would say, but quite classic ones. It reminded me a little bit of like going to the carnival and going on the haunted house ride. I would say it suffers from that slight problem of the build-up of the tension, which is so well done. All these wide shots of empty rooms or things moving in the out of focus parts of the frame. Like, that's very well done, but the inevitable big scares maybe aren't so well done. They're just not quite the big payoff that you want them to be. And there's a lot of questions here, like, what does it mean to believe or not believe? Are those both coming out of fear? Because, you know, we have this idea of ghosts being maybe a sort of existential terror, and it's almost gothic in that sense of ghosts being there to deliver messages as opposed to terrorize you. So it does feel very classic in that way. But it does also suggest that maybe not believing in the supernatural is just an attempt to try and control things that you don't understand. And there's this repeated phrase of the brain sees what it wants to see, which, if it reminds people of Darren Brown, something he would say, that would probably be correct, because Andy Nyman has collaborated on him with so many of his shows.
Yeah.
And that's almost where my issue comes in, because the ending is very trying to pull the rug from underneath you.
Don't say too much.
I won't say that was it. But, you know, when you're watching a Darren Brown show, it's all real and there's so many mechanics going behind the illusion. But cinema itself is an illusion, and the camera can control so much of what you see and you don't see. So I don't think it's quite the payoff that the film thinks it is, maybe.
I kind of liked how I came out quite confused at the end. There's these kind of almost like 3 stories that you kind of go through the journeys of these 3 individuals: Martin Freeman's character, Alex's character, and Paul Whitehouse's character. But I just think that, you know, and Andy kind of is the glue between these 3 stories. And I just, it's definitely got a bit of a League of Gentlemen kind of sort of aura to it as well, obviously with Jeremy. And I don't know, I liked the tone of it. I like that kind of it having that slight League of Gentlemen kind of confused and slightly dark kind of comedy sort of side to it.
Yeah, and it felt very classic and very British, which is nice. Because there's not a huge amount of that out at the moment.
No, but there's so much history of that. Do you know what I mean?
Exactly, yeah.